Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon from where you're watching this. We are going live after a long time. It's been a month or 2 months, I'm not sure. Uh, it's been a long time. We went live. Okay, so just waiting for everyone to join and so that we can start with our 10-day session. Okay, not continuous. Basically, we'll be having 1 hour session alternate days from today to 10th of March. So we have our first session on 1st March, which is today. Uh, Next, we'll be having on 3rd, then 5th, then 7th, then 9th. So by doing this, we'll be having 5 sessions. Okay, and these sessions will be taken by, I'll be taking some sessions, Heather will be taking some sessions. Okay, I will talk about the plan, what exactly we are going to do in this 10 days, and then we can start with the journey. But before we do that, let me talk to you after a long time. So I can see a lot of people joined. We got Harshita. Hi, we got Nagis. Great, we got Spiritual Journey. We got Critical Chandan, Rohan, Nandu, Jay, Aman, Clarity, Ashta Khanna. Okay. Okay, Crazy Rip. Hey, hi everyone. Yeah, after a long time. Okay, I don't know. You want to check if you're watching from YouTube or LinkedIn. I think something went wrong with the LinkedIn stream. So we are doing stream only on YouTube now. So yeah, we'll start in a minute. Hello. Okay, cool. So let's talk about what are we going to do in this 10 days, basically. See, the thing is, from a long time, we did the Java workshop before. We did the 10 days sessions for MacBook, but this time we are not doing giving away anything. Just wanted to educate more people into Java world. See, what happens is we are into different technologies, right? Some people worked on PHP, Python, JavaScript. And then one of the problem with Java is when you start a language like Java, it feels difficult to start with. And it's true because the first code which you write in Java is hello world. And then for that, if you're coming from the world of Python or JavaScript, it is much easier in Python, right? You simply say, uh, print hello world, it works. In JavaScript, also it works. So basically, we can write print and it directly works there. On the other hand, if we talk about the world of Java, we have to write 7 lines of code just to print hello world. I'm not sure, I'm just guessing it is 7 lines. But you have to write multiple lines of code to print hello world, right? And that's where people think that Java is difficult. So in this particular 10 days, we want to show you how easy it is to build applications, not normal hello world or addition of 2 numbers, but actual projects which you can build. Of course, we'll not be building the entire project here, but we'll start with something. And even if you don't know Java, let's see if you can understand something. And even if you can see how easy it is to work in Java, that's serve our purpose. Okay, so let me know in the comment on the chat if you know Java. Again, this is not for someone who already know Java, who already know Python, Spring. If you know Spring, this is just a refreshment. But if you don't know Spring, let me know in the chat. People who are new to Java, people who are new to Spring, maybe you have worked on different languages. It can be Python or JavaScript. Just let me know in the chat. Okay, Jishan says, watching you when your followers were 40K. Oh, it's been a long time. I think it was year 2016 somewhere. We got 40K or 15. It should be 16. So it's been 8 years. Okay, a lot of people are saying they know Java, but Spring is new to them. That's a good thing. Okay, so you will understand. In fact, as I mentioned, we are not going to do this continuous for 10 days. We are going to do it alternate days. So today, let's understand the project, what we're going to work on, and maybe we'll switch the project in between. Depends upon how you react and how the thing goes. Okay, cool. So now let me show you the project which we are trying to build. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and I'm doing it here. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen, and you can see we have. Okay, just want to check if I'm properly audible, because I've changed my settings. How do I know if I'm audible? Okay, where is this setting for the? Okay, just let me know. I'm just still waiting for you to say that. Okay, Chandan says already covered almost 30 hours from 48 hours. That's great. Oh, thank you, ma'am. Great. Complete 23 hours. Okay, so you are focusing on that video. That's good. That's good. Okay, so going back to the screen. So yeah, so I was trying to show you a project, right? Now in this project, if you can see, this is basically a project which we're trying to build, and there are a lot of files available here. Okay, if you can see, there are a lot of files here. If you can see the config, there is a web config file, and maybe we are not going to use this. If you can see, we have a controller, so much of Java code. Okay, so even if you don't know Java, you will understand, you might understand something. Okay, so I just need this particular details here. So I will just put it somewhere. I want this details. I will just put that into not Sublime text. Edit. New document. Okay, just saving it there so that we can use it later. And we got these files. We got so many files here, right? Now the beauty is, what I'm going to do is, we'll not be using this project. We'll create this project from scratch, and we'll try to make you understand what is happening, okay? But let's see what is the output which we are going to see. Most of the time when you build a web application, what you see is the backend, right? But what you want to see is also the front end. Nowadays, things are a bit different. If you try to understand front end and back end, basically, if you have a client here, let's say if you have a normal machine and some client is using it, basically, you need to have a server to respond to this particular client. So of course, a client will send a request, and the client will get the response from the server, right? And this can be a request object, this can be a response object. And from the server side, basically you get the pages. Now this server can be built with the help of PHP, the server can be built with the help of JavaScript, using the Node.js framework, or Node.js tool and Express.js framework. We can also use Django here with Python. So there are multiple options you can use to build this web app. Also, you can use Java there as a backend, right? And then from the backend, we can basically send the pages to the client. See, of course, when you say a client is basically a browser here, right? And on this browser, you can send some pages back. And to build those pages, okay, which technology by the way, we use to make those pages? We basically use something called HTML, right? So we have to build the HTML page. Of course, when I say HTML, it will also have CSS and JavaScript to make it more interactive. So that means when you build a server, you have to build both. You have to build the logic and the UI as well, right? And then you have to send HTML. But what if instead of merging the Java code, example, if you want to send HTML using Java, you have to create HTML and Java together, right? So instead of having those together, what if we can separate the two things? We can have a world of front end and back end. So basically, let's say you got a client here, right? And this client will be loaded with the React as a front end. So let's say we got this React app, and then this React app will interact with this server. So you'll be having a Java code here as a backend, and then you'll be having a React front end, which is here, and this two will be communicating. So this is what we have done. So the way we can connect these two is if you can build a REST APIs. Now, what are APIs? Basically, again, in different languages, we do build APIs. A backend will have a lot of features. So the backend I'm talking about is this. It has a lot of features, but as a front end can only access few of them. So it's like you are going to a bank, and bank provides a lot of services, but then when you want to talk to them, you have to go to their counter where you will be having a small section where you can talk to. So that position where you can talk to them is actually your endpoints. Okay, so we have to build some endpoints here. So that's what we're going to do. We are going to build the endpoints for the React to access it. And of course, once you look at the code, it will make much more sense. So just be with me. But before we continue, we got a point from Jishan. Okay, Jishan trying to say something. Now I'm a full stack developer, trainer, and content creator. That's great. And it has been 6 years since I started my coding journey. But that's great, Jishan. And yeah, thank you so much for the super chat. And it's good to know that you're also into training. Thank you. Okay. Now with that thing in the mind, we will be having two different things. We'll be having a front end and we'll be having a back end. So let's see the code. Now this is the back end, okay? So this is back end, which is not running at this point. And let's go to the front end. Now front end is built in using React. So if I go back to my VS Code, so you can see this is the front end which we have. Now this is a React code. I'm not sure how many of you know React. I'm not an expert in React, but let's try to understand the code. This is a Spring Java session, so we'll be writing the Java code from scratch, but not the React code. We do have a React code ready, and we'll use it. So the first step is, first of all, we have to run this. I have already done the installation, and I will give you this particular project in the description later. So once the video gets over, we'll share the link for this front end and back end in the description. So do check out. So I will say npm run dev. So you can see this front end is running now on this particular port number. If I jump to that port number or that URL, it's taking some time. Okay, Chrome got update. So you can see it says 404. Okay, it's accessing a wrong URL. Where did it open? Okay, it's here. So you can see this is the project. Again, my team has built this. Not a contributor in UI. So you can see it's amazing graphical. Colors are changing. Not a big fan of colors, but it looks cool. Okay, Craze Up says Craze Rip. Okay, I know React. Great. Okay, so you can see we got a list of students here. So maybe basically we're trying to manage the students, and you can manage anything you want: devices, hospitals, maybe e-commerce. It's all about adding the features or adding the product, removing the product. Same way here. So you can see I'm clicking on add new student. It should give you this form where you can mention the details, and you can simply able to click add here. I will just use a different URL, a different browser. Okay, so you can see I can enter the name Naveen, I can mention my email, doesn't matter what I type, and then I should be able to type the address, I should be able to type the phone number, and then a class name. Let's say I am doing my fourth grade, and my father's name is Be Ready. Okay, and click on Add Student, and this is not working. You know why this is not working? Because we only running the front end. The backend is not running. And if the backend is not running, when you click on Add Student, it will send a request for the backend. So why it's not working? So let's look at the React code and see what it is doing. So in the React, basically you try to create the component structure. So everything is a component. Okay. So here, if you see, these are the different components. If you go back to the page, and if you go back to the home page, okay. So you can see all these are components. So this add new student is a component. This white box here is also a component, not just visually, but also logically. And so you can create small components and you can arrange them. You can create, have a component inside other component. You can reuse your components. Example, if I want the same component multiple times, I don't have to code it multiple times. I can just simply use them. So they are basically reusable components. And the way you build them is, again, people who know React, that's great. People who are new to React, just to give you some background, what is happening here is ultimately what you see there is only one page. So React promotes SAP, which is single page application. And when you click on this index.html, this is the entire stuff which you are saying, okay? Only this code is what you are able to see on the screen. So the entire thing here is actually because of this code. But then if you observe, we are, oh sorry, not this one, yeah. So this is the main thing, right? But if you see, we are using a JavaScript here, a file, JavaScript file here, right? And if you go back to main.jsx, so if you can see, this is basically we got the entire page, and now we are adding the components, right? So with the help of DOM manipulation, we are basically adding an app inside the page. Now, what is this app? Again, all these are custom tags which we are getting. So if you can see, we got app.js. Now we got another component, app.js. Now this is a part of different components. So we got different routes here for student list. So what you see here is list of students. Once you have students, you will see that here. It's happening because of this. We also have an option of add student, which you can see here. And then we have an option of edit student. Now you will see edit once you get some students there. But ultimately what you're doing is you are creating a components and then you're adding into another components. And where are we creating this component? So if you see, I'm looking at the code for the first time, okay, with you. I got this project from my team in the morning, but I was doing something else. So we are exploring the project together. Okay, so if you can see, we got studentlist.js, and this is where you got option for listing the students. And the way you can list the students is this. See, in the front end, we don't have data, right? Data will be actually coming from the database or from the backend, from your server. So you have to send a request to the server. And the way you can send a request is with the help of this URL. So we are saying http://localhost:8080 API students. Now this is a URL which you are hitting. Now if you go back and if you copy this URL, and if you go back to your browser, in a new tab, if I search, so you can see this is not able to connect. You know why? Because we are hitting the backend server, which is not running. So what I will do is, I will just go back to my IntelliJ code, and now let's run the backend. Again, we are going to recreate this particular project, but I just want to show you what we are doing here. So if I run this, so the server is running, it's running, it started. And now let me go back to the browser, hit the same URL, and if you can see, we got data this time. Okay, we got some random names. Again, my team has added this. If I can hit the same URL in Chrome, I do have an extension to make it beautiful. Yeah, so I think there's some extension which I'm using for Prettyfy or something. So you can see we got this JSON format in a good way. So we got ID, name, and all this data. And all this data is preloaded. We are basically using them. And maybe I don't even want all the fields when we create a project, but let's say we have those things there. So we got these details here, right? And the backend is running now. So that means if I go back to my browser and if I refresh this page now since the backend is running, you can see we got all this data here. So you're getting this data because the backend is running. And you can see all these are components, these are reusable components. We created this component only once and then we can reuse multiple times. So maybe you have 1,000 students or 1,000 students, you can still have the same format used multiple times. It's just like a for loop, right? In the for loop, we say for 1 to 1,000, use the same code. In the same way, we are reusing the components here. Okay, I can even add new student now. So we can go with the same data which we were trying before. Okay, not here. So I will say nav@gmail.com, some address, some phone number. Let's say I'm into 4th grade and be ready. And if I say add student, and now you can see this time it worked. If you go down, we can see we have our data there, right? So how exactly things are working out here? So the front end is basically requesting the data from the server. So when you hit this URL, it asks for all the students. And these students are same what you see here. So the students which you have here are same which you see on this particular browser, right? It's just that we are displaying that with the React. In the earlier case, we were just showing the data as it is. So that's the job of this particular URL. It will give you data. And once you got the data, you can set the students. So basically in React, we use something called hooks. One of them is useState. By default, we are keeping this particular student object as empty. But once you get your data, what you're doing is you are setting the student. So whatever data you receive from the server, you are setting it to the student object here. And then that data is basically getting loaded on the screen. So they have used a loop here. So the map basically takes, okay, it says we got multiple students. Let me take one student at a time and display all these values. So because of these things, you are able to see these things here, okay? And since we are using map, you're able to see that multiple times. So that's one. What if you want to edit a student? So this is for the edit form. Where do you see edit? If I go back to my browser, you can see every student has an option of edit here. So if I click on this, I can edit these details. Maybe I don't want to say 10th A, maybe I want to say 9th F. In that case, if I click on update, so now it becomes 9F. And not just here, the data is getting changed in the database as well. So that's the edit one, and this is for the add student. Again, this is just all React. Now, why I'm showing you this is because you might be having a team where you are working in the backend and there's some front-end developer working in a front-end. Their responsibility is to make React application and your responsibility is to make the Spring application, okay? And now you want to have those communication. The way you can do that is by hitting the endpoints. So you can see from the front end, you are hitting the endpoints with the help of these URLs. One more important thing is the methods. We got post. So when we use this HTTP protocol, we have different methods. We got post for submitting the new request. We got put for updating. We got get for fetching. We got delete for deleting. So we can use all these different methods. Example, if you go to list to the student list, we are sending a request for get for getting the data. For deleting, we are sending a delete request here. Okay, and delete actually works. If you go back and say I don't want Rohan here, delete gone. There's no Rohan anymore. Even if I refresh, you will not get Rohan because from the database itself is gone. Okay. Now let's look at the backend code for this. So in the backend, what is happening is someone was talking about the database. Okay, so we are not using the permanent database here. We can use Postgres, but we are using H2 here, which is a temporary database. And when you run this application, it will load the H2 database as well. But by default, data will be empty. So what we have done here is, if you go to resource, you can see we got data.sql. We are adding some data here in the queries. So we have written 5 queries here, and we are inserting some dummy data. So yes, this is your SQL. We are using SQL here. Cool. But again, as I mentioned, we don't want to use this project. Let's build this project from scratch. And how do we do that? Let's take a small break and then we'll continue. So let's take a break of 3 minutes and then we'll continue with the project. Let's create this project from scratch. And again, you don't need to have any Java knowledge. But yeah, if you have a knowledge of other languages, it will be helpful. If you're new to programming, this will be a struggle. So this is good for people who has worked on different languages, also worked on Java maybe, but not in Spring. See you after the break, everyone. Okay, welcome back. So now let's focus on this particular project. So let's create this project from scratch. Okay, so which project I'm talking about? This one. So what I will do is the IDE which I'm using for the front end is VS Code. And I will share this code with you in the description after the session. And let's create the Java project in IntelliJ. So I'm using IntelliJ. You can use any IDE which you want. In fact, the next session will be taken by Heather, and Heather is going to use STS, I think, which is the Eclipse version for Spring. And I think Heather is also joining. Let me check with Heather if he's joining now. Or maybe he's watching the live. Okay, so let's create this project. So I'm using IntelliJ here. So I will create a new project. So you can see I'm creating a new project. Now IntelliJ is an idea, just like any other IDE we have. Okay, Heather can also join now. So I will just get Heather in next 15 minutes or 10-15 minutes once I create this structure for the project to show you some response, how you can respond to a particular URL. And then we can get Heather on board. Okay, so IntelliJ is one of the IDE which most of you can use for Java, but the only problem is the ultimate version is paid, it's not free. The community version is free, but you don't get this option of creating a project here. So I will show you the option later if you are using community version of IntelliJ, and if you still want to use Initializer, how can you do that? But let's say if I want to create a new project, I'm into IntelliJ IDEA. I'm saying Spring Initializer here. Let me give you a project name. I will say project is student demo. That's the project name. I'm using a language Java. The type of building is Maven. Now, see, when you work with a project need to have multiple things. A project need to have some dependencies. Maybe your code is dependent on some other libraries. And also, your project need to build. We have to run the test cases if you have written something. So if you want to achieve that, we can use something called a build tool called Maven, or you can also use Gradle for that. So I'm using Maven, which is simple to understand. So let's go with Maven. The group ID I'm using is com.telisco, which is unique for me, because I own the domain, telisco.com. This is the artifact ID, good with me. This is my package name. And the Java version which I have in my machine is Java 21. It should work if you even have Java 17, because I'm setting the language level to 17 so that we can all use the same version. So when you get this project in your machine, make sure you have at least 17. If I set it 21, and if you have 17 in your machine, it will not work. So I'm saying 17 and click on next. Now, what are dependencies I need? So this is a web project, right? Now in Java, if you want to build a web project, we can use something called a Spring Web. So if you select that, that's it, you got your web project. But also, I want to have a H2 database. So I can simply select H2 and I can get H2 here. But at this point, I will not be doing that. Maybe I will add H2 bit later. At this point, I'm okay with the web. I will click on create. And you can see we got our project. Boom, this is your project in Spring. Is it difficult? Of course not. You just need an IDE and you will get a running project, a project which will run. But you will say, hey, I don't have the IntelliJ Ultimate version. If you see, I'm using an Ultimate version. I got it for free, but and I have to pay now. So May of 6th May, basically I have to resubscribe. I have to pay for the premium. But yeah, at this point I got it for free. But what if you don't have Ultimate version? You have a community version. In that case, what you can do is you can get the same project. You can just go to your browser. There's a website called start.spring.io, And from this is where you can get the project. You can see we got the same interface. We got a similar interface. And we can say project type is Maven. The language is Java, the same thing. The version for Spring Boot is 3.2.3, which was same there. See, it doesn't matter which IDE you have, Somnath. Even if you have Eclipse, it still works. So what I'm doing now is, if you have Eclipse, just open Eclipse and follow the steps. Go to start.spring.io and select these options. Mention your group ID from com.example to com.telesco, whatever domain you have. And let's say artifact as student or demo. Java version 17, but you have to add a dependency, the same which we have added before. So it's a Spring Web. Click on generate, and this will give you a project. So if you see the downloads, okay, it still says generating. So now it is in downloads. If I click on downloads here, you can see we got a zip file. If I open this, so that's your project. And you can even open this project into VS Code if you want. But now what you can open this project in any IDE. You can use NetBeans, Eclipse, IntelliJ, community version, or what else we have? VS Code. Did I mention VS Code 2 times? So yeah, this is the project. You can just open this project in any IDE which you want. Okay, you want me to show in VS Code? Yes, you can do that. So let's say we have VS Code here. I will click on open folder, downloads, demo 3, open, and you can see we got the project here. But I just need to make sure that my Java is installed. Okay, Java language server crashed. Yeah, so there's some issue with the Java for VS Code, but if you have VS Code and if you have Java installed, you can simply install the run plugin for Spring. Spring. I forgot the extension to run this as a Spring project. But anyway, if you don't want to install Spring, you can open the terminal and you can run the command for Maven. So Maven, and you can run the command. Okay, let's get back to IntelliJ, and here let's run the project. So I will just right click here. I will just expand this, and you can see it will give you your main code. At least by default, you don't have to type this code. And we have not done any coding yet. We just created a simple project, nothing fancy. Using IntelliJ or using the browser, you can go to start.spring.io. You will get this, and let's run this. And okay, so now this is giving you error is because the earlier project, we have to stop it because both are running on the same port number. Okay, where that project went? Okay, it's here. Yeah, so let's rerun this. Okay, Mavan says, do you still prefer 17 over 21? I prefer 21 for my personal projects, but the moment when I make a video for YouTube, not everyone has 21. And if I want to share the code, then 17 makes sense. Okay. Yeah, so you can see this is running now, but where exactly it's running? You can see it's running on port number 8080. So if I go back to my browser and if I say localhost colon 8080, enter. Okay, so it says 404. Okay. The reason it is showing you 404 is because you are getting some response from this server. But what if I make a mistake of port number? So you can see when your server is not running, it is giving you this error. But now when I make it port number 8080, we got 404, but at least our server is running. The server is not able to find a home page. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to return something here. Maybe just printing hello or get lost. So I want it to respond something whenever you send a request for the home page. It's not doing that now. Now, the way you can work this is when a client sends you a request. So when a client sends a request to the server for the home page, a server need to have some way of accepting the request and responding back to the client. And the way you can do that is with the help of, there is something called a controller. So we have to create a controller and we can pass it from there. So let's understand how do we create a controller here. So we can go for the package here and say new and click on a Java class, because in Java, whenever you want to do something, you have to create a class. I will just name this as a student controller. Okay, it's a very simple class, nothing fancy here. If you know Java, Java is all about classes. Okay, so we got a class here. Now what I'm going to do is, when you send a request for the home page, I want to execute something. In Java, if you want to execute something, we have to create a method. Now what is method? Method is similar to your functions if you're coming from Python, JavaScript. So these are also functions. And the way you define function is specify the, okay, I think my Copilot is on. So disable my Copilot. Okay, so I will say public. I want to return something. I want to return a string, right? And then I want to have a function name. So first you have to mention the access modifier, which is public. I want anyone to call this. What I want to return. So string means text. I want to return a text. And then I want to have a name for this. So I will say greet. You can have any name, doesn't matter. So this is how you define a function or a method. At this point, I will just return maybe hello world. Okay, I'll just give some exclamation. So this is what I want to return, nothing fancy. I just want to say hello world. And now that's it. This should work, right? So if I restart the application now, I made the changes, I got a controller. So that means when a client sends a request, my server says, okay, I have someone for you. And that will return you hello world. That is what I'm expecting. Go back to your browser and say refresh. Oh, it's not working. Why it's not working? See, you know that this is a controller, but your project has no idea that this is a controller. The way you can mention that is by writing @REST controller. Now these are like decorators for Python. In Java, we use annotations. So what we are saying is, hey, this is not a normal class. It has some extra features. What extra features? This is basically a REST controller. Now we are getting this features because we are using a Spring project. In Spring, when you say Spring Web, it will give you this extra features. So now this becomes a controller. That's it. Let's go back, restart your application. And go back to your browser. Nope, still not working. What's happening here? What's happening is you got a controller and your project also says, yeah, that's a controller. I agree. But then how you know that for which URL we have to hit which method. See, we are saying that for homepage it should call greet. But what if it is not calling the homepage? What if you are calling something, let's say, I want to call the about page, telesco.com/about or telesco.com/courses. So in that case, I have to specify for which URL I want to call which method. And okay, someone says, okay, Sheikh says there is a sound issue. Is it the sound issue for everyone? No issue? Okay. Cool. Yeah. So how do you know for which URL you have to map to which method? And that's where, see, you can have multiple methods, right? You can, the way you have greet, you can also have a method called get lost, which will return see you never, right? And I want to call this when I'm sending a request for, let's say, logout. So when someone says localhost colon 8080/logout, I want to say get lost, or I want to say see you never. So in that case, if I go back here, how do I specify for which URL we have to use this? So what we can do is, again, we can use some annotations, because that's how you specify something to the Spring framework. For your runner, what is your intention? So I want to say, whenever there's a request, so for that we have to use something called request mapping. Whenever you have a request for, so in double quotes, whenever you have a request for the home page. Now, how do you define a home page? By slash. So whenever you get the home page, just return hello world. And whenever, so we can specify the request mapping here as well. Whenever you get a request for logout, you have to return see you never. Okay. So for the home page, return hello world. For the logout, return see you never. Now this is where you have to use mapping. So this is a mapping. We have to specify for which URL mapping we have to call which method, and that's what we are doing here. Let's restart and see if this works. And if you go back to your browser, so let's start with logout, refresh. Can you see that? We got a message on screen. It says see you never. So from the backend, you got a response in the front end, which is in your browser. But now if you send a request for the home page, you can see it says hello world. So those two methods basically accepts your request and process it and returns you back. Okay, Shiva is saying, can you please explain what are we doing, because I've just came just now. We are just trying to understand or see how easy it is to build web application using Spring. And we just created two different endpoints, one for the homepage, one for the logout. And that's it, nothing fancy, just trying to build a student management system. And we are going to do this for 10 days, not every day, but alternate days. And you got the response using this particular mappings. So what are we have done till now? We created a very simple project, which is this. In this, we created only one file, which is your controller. And this controller has two methods, greet and get lost. Greet says hello world, get lost says see you never. And that's it. You have not done much of the coding here. We just did this and this is working. Okay, what imports did you get for request mapping and REST controller? So if you see, the request mapping and REST controller both belongs to Spring framework. Now, just because we have added this Spring web, we got this. Is it making sense, everyone? Yes, this will be available on the platform. So in fact, today we have talked about a lot of stuff. We have talked about this React application. Not everything, but at least we have, okay, where is that application? So management, yeah. So we have seen this. But for the backend, we have not done much. We just created this endpoints. What about the different methods? So we'll do it slowly. Let's not do everything in one day. So I will give you this project. I will give you the front end as well, just to explore. Revise your Java concepts. Revise your JavaScript concept as well. And you can come back on Sunday. Sunday, same time. We'll have live. We'll continue with this. But I want to get Heather as well to show you how Heather looks like, everyone. Most of you have seen Heather. I just need to get Heather. I think I can't share my screen when the interview is going on. So Heather, I'm sharing you the link. If you're watching this online. Okay, Heather will be joining in some time. Okay, Heather looks like Heather. I'm just saying that because tomorrow Heather will be joining directly without me. And I want people to know who is Heather. Oh, great, great. Okay, Heather is here, and Heather is in the guest room. Why can't I add you in the screen? This is weird. Anyone, can you see Heather? Because I can't. This is weird. Okay, now I can. But it looks like Heather has replaced me. Oh, great, great. So Marwan, it's Sunday, 7 p.m. IST, Indian time zone. So Heather, you are live on Talisco YouTube channel. Welcome back.
Hello, sir. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Hello, everyone. It's a great opportunity to be in Telescope. So good to be back. This channel, you might have seen some of the videos there.
Yeah. In fact, a lot of our already students of different batch are there. They know you. And so Manju ma'am says Heather is visible. Yes. Okay. So this is Heather. A lot of experience in the industry, a lot of experience in training, a better trainer than me when it comes to live classes in a classroom environment. I don't know why he's not focusing much on making videos. Every day, if you can see, He's trying to push some videos, but he's not doing that. But anyway, that's a different thing. We'll talk about that separately. But yeah, so from tomorrow, Heather is going to take few sessions, and then I'll be back to finish these things. So today, I have done this session on Sunday. Heather will take it. So Heather, basically, you have seen the session, right? Where we are now. So we have to make sure that we continue with the student management and build layer by layer. I have not talked about what layers are, so you can start with the layers on Sunday, and continue from there.
I'm excited for the upcoming sessions, and as Sir has mentioned at the beginning of this entire session itself, that there are no prerequisites. Only thing is, you just need to be focused, and your point of view in this entire coming session is to understand how projects are made using Java, right? So there is a myth that Java is one of the difficult language. I hope at the end of these sessions that myth will go away and you'll understand why so many developers from decades they are using Java. So that's the end goal, and you understand you need to focus on the approach we follow to develop the project more than the syntax. Syntax, anyway, you can learn any programming language, any technology, any framework. That's very easy. The only thing which you need to focus is what is the approach we are following and how easy to use Java or its associated one of the most popular framework, which is Spring Boot. I'm excited for the upcoming sessions. I hope you will also enjoy these sessions.
Right. It's all about focus. Focus is the key. So our existing students on the Discord platform knows what Heather is talking about. Uh, but yeah, that's the thing. Cool. So that's Heather, and Heather will see you on Sunday. Uh, I will not be able to join on Sunday, but Heather will be there, and he will be taking care of the first part. Cool. Yeah, there was some issue with the voice, maybe because of we both are doing the same time. It might be conflicting. But anyway, Heather will join from the same studio on Sunday. It should not be an issue, and there will be only one person, so no other problem. So that's it, everyone. Thank you so much, Heather, for joining, and everyone else, thanks for joining. Hit that like button, and check out the description. You will find the link for the code in some time. And see you later. Bye bye. Bye bye, Heather.
Nice. Bye, everyone.